In 2016, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued their ADDM Autism Prevalence Report. And the report concluded that the prevalence of autism had risen to 1 in every 68 births. 1 in 68 births in the United States, nearly twice that of 2004, which was 1 in 125. And the most alarming to me and educational is that it was almost 1 in every 54 boys. And with that said, I'm outside, so if there's a few elements that come into my video, I apologize ahead of time. But I would like to just begin, in addition to those statistics, is that we've made a lot of advances as well. And one of them was IDEA, which is Individual Disabilities Education Act of 2004, has really set us on a new course with special education in so many ways. And one of the biggest is that school districts now legally are required to educate students in inclusive learning classroom environments. Otherwise, they're also known as LREs, or least restrictive environments. And it is the greatest opportunity for us to not only focus on the needs of the students, but also how they interact socially, which is so key in helping identify steps we can take educationally with them and their peers, especially at that secondary level, at every level, primary or secondary. And one of our largest tools in doing that is called the IEP, or the Individualized Education Program. You see, once the special needs or autism is detected, we get to strategically approach with a program that is individualized to the student to attain the best possible educational outcome. And that's a privilege to do. One of our, I would say, from my observations as well as my studying, that one of the biggest challenges in all of this can be the cultural and linguistic diversity, especially here in Southern California. It's a melting pot. And it's Hispanics, Koreans, Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipino, you name it. The students are all there. It is a mixed match, especially where I am fortunate enough to sub right now and look forward to working. And one of the keys in understanding education with these students is being able to identify and instruct students in their primary language. Now that's key, because that's probably what they're most familiar with. And it comes down to different elements of English. Let's say the ELA class, English may just, learning the English language itself can be a challenge. And so we have the opportunity to come back with just studying syntax, parts of speech, you name it, just to get down the feeling enough for the student that they're comfortable with the English language. And to do that, the more we can connect, converse, and communicate in the student's primary language, even if it's just a few fun phrases here and there, allows them to better understand how English fits with their native language, even grammatically. And that's huge, especially come secondary, which is why they kind of give us a lot of blank stares anyways. So to break it down piece by piece and communicate as much in their primary language if possible. And a lot of that will come alongside, we come alongside of the families. And interpreters in the IEP meetings are vital if these parents do not speak English. We need to clearly communicate with them so that we're all on the same page. From issues such as learning English, math, behavior, discipline, the more consistent we can be throughout their education and at home, the better. I would also encourage that in this whole ELL concentration of students, that I'd like to see them all taught, ultimately, all subjects in English, not just, they don't just learn English in ELA. What I'm trying to say is, whether it's math, whether it's history, regardless of the course itself, we may seek opportunities for them to come alongside of them and help them learn the English language. That's huge. We can do that with quick writes and some other tools that we have every morning, just to help them continue to stay familiar, not just one period a day at the secondary level. That can be huge. And the process is fascinating, and I enjoy the process. Let me throw some acronyms at you, which they're all over the place. But one is called the ABA. And when we look at assessing and behavioral supports, the first one is an applied behavior analysis, ABA. That's where we discover behaviors that might be in question, that might have the opportunity. That's like, okay, before we can educate, we need to communicate. Before we can communicate, we've got to manage behavior. That is a priority, whether English language challenges are there or not. Behavior management, then communication, then education. So behavior management is priority. And the ABA allows us to discover what the challenge is, the challenging behavior. Next, after the ABA comes the FBA, and the FBA is the Functional Behavior Assessment. That's where we can test and discover the triggers that help launch these behaviors that might be in question. After the FBA, then we get specific and we put together a plan, and it's called the BIP, or the Behavior Intervention Program. That's the plan or the program where we decide how we want to implement, what action we want to take place in a positive way, in a positive manner, that will help the students understand his or her behavior, take a look at it, examine it, and then choose in a positive way a new form of behavior. And I can't stress the necessity of being positive in this. Not jumping down their throats, not yelling at them, not condemning them, not making them feel less than, with behavior that may or may not totally be understood by what they're doing with their lives. So either way, we have a chance to do that. We gather information, we implement, and we assess, and we monitor every process along the way of the BIP. And again, the Behavior Intervention Program, that will always continue. It's part of the IEP. And I think it's probably something that we'll see discussed over and over. Hey, how's the behavior in the class, or in transition, or after class, or with their peers, or with the teacher or the aide? How's the behavior? What have you seen? What's been analyzed? What's been assessed? And what's the plan call for? And what that really does is it allows us ultimately to go ahead and take a look and evaluate our methods. Maybe we're heading the wrong direction. Maybe we're right on the money. That's the necessity and the need for why we have to do what we do with these. IEP's the big picture, and then the behavior plan is right there at the very beginning. And it's also kind of a foundation that we can build upon with our communication with them and in education as well. Now, how that's done, that involves the people, the team. And that's all about collaboration. That's working well together with your colleagues, with volunteers, with aides, with administration, with other professionals in the IEP process. Your ability to collaborate is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And I would encourage, I challenged myself as well when it came down to colleagues and the co-teaching methods and opportunities. I question teachers left and right, my short and long-term observations that I've had in different high schools and junior highs. And what I came up with is that everything I'm learning in this program, they're now going to in-services for. And it acted for great discussion for us, and to find out who does well with what, which administrations support which type of co-teaching. Are they forcing everyone into a direction? How are the teachers responding, both the general ed as well as the special ed teacher? And that's really what the collaboration's about. It's really coming down to, with the colleagues, how do we choose to work together to help that student with special needs take the next steps in the best possible way? Outside of the professional realm, we also have the familial, in other words, the family. Whether it's an ELL family or an English-speaking family, that's the next piece of collaboration that is so important. They know their students, they know their sons and daughters, and they bring such a great perspective on how we can better educate and meet their needs. We need to collaborate as often as we can not just in the super formal setting of an IEP, but also maybe a one-on-one, an email, a phone call, or a separate meeting where we can stay consistent to best help educate them in the best possible way. When it comes to assessing, who better than their parents to really bring perspective? One of the biggest disappointments, though, especially at the high school level, is you see parents disengage. It's either the child, the teacher, or the parent, or any combination that just give up. And often a lot of parents may not even show up to IEPs, and that's pretty discouraging. But we stay the course, and we keep doing what we can to make sure these things happen. And in fact, I've spent quite a lot of time at Ayala High School, and the staff there, the teachers, as well as the admin staff, were so helpful in helping me understand and take my next steps of integrating my knowledge and what I've been learning in the academic setting into the practical at the school, in the classroom. And here is the assistant principal, one of the assistant principals, Christy Baker, that I think says it great, and I just really appreciated her compliment of myself, but really how she saw and evaluated my performance.
I'm Christy Baker, Assistant Principal at Ruben S. Ayala High School, and Mr. Bearden I have had the pleasure of working with this year in many facets in our severely handicapped classroom, as he was a long-term sub in there, and in our RSP, SDC, and general ed classes. He is adaptable to any setting and puts the interests of all the students first. He communicates with parents, students, and with admin, and collaborates with all our gen ed teachers. I wish that I could hire him to be a teacher here at Ruben S. Ayala High School. That's how highly I think of him as a teacher.
Well, thanks, Christy. That was not a paid sponsorship. Lastly, I just really think that none of this happens without my heartbeat for Christ. Having had over 20 years in youth ministry, I kind of dialed into the youth. It just comes very natural for me. And my faith is at the center of every opportunity I can have to possibly connect with students, parents, families, colleagues. I look forward to those moments because that's my opportunity to be Christ in front of them. Psalm 139 talks to us about how Christ knew us before we were even born, and how proud he is, and that he's got a plan for us. In Jeremiah, I know the plans I have. And to bring that purpose and identity into a young person's life, and watch the parents kind of light up when they're saying, what perspective are you bringing? I haven't seen this. And bring hope above all. Hope that there's a bigger picture in play here. I know there's a sensitivity of separation of church and state, but my faith drives me. It's the one sustainment that keeps me energized and excited even when I'm discouraged. And I think that because of what Christ says and what Scripture teaches us, that we can help them understand their strengths. We can remain positive in helping them discover and celebrating their successes and feel better about who they are and their identity. This is great. I'm moving forward. And then also that we can help set a course and a plan for action. I think Christ modeled that a lot with his disciples. He didn't toss them aside regardless, and nor should we with anybody that we have the opportunity to spend time with every day, in every situation, but specifically in the classroom with students with special needs. It is a privilege. This class has been a privilege. I've enjoyed thoroughly learning and could spend another hour on a video really portraying, probably not even scratching the surface in reality of what opportunities I've had and the stories that I've learned that have engaged me to truly want to seek the best in becoming an educator for special education. So thanks for this moment. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed just a little bit about what I've shared about it, and I'm sure you have tons of stories that could even educate me even more. And hey, really, that's about it. Thanks for taking time, and we'll talk to you later.